Have you ever seen a dog waiting for something, day after day, rain or shine, and wondered what secret story it was carrying in its heart? What silent promise it was holding on to, what truth it was hoping someone would finally see? Well, this is the story of a stray dog who followed a yellow school bus every single morning, padding quietly down the same cracked sidewalks, stopping at the same street corner, waiting at the same exact time as if it knew the schedule better than anyone. And for weeks nobody noticed. Not really, because people are so used to seeing. Dogs wander in neighborhoods, but this one was different. This one had purpose in its steps. This one had a look in its eyes like it was guarding a secret it couldn't say. And it all began in a little town where life moved slowly, where the sound of that bus engine was the loudest thing on the street at 7:30 every morning. Inside that bus was a little girl named Lily, 7 years old, tiny, with glasses that always slid down her nose, holding her favorite pink backpack with frayed edges because she'd had it since kindergarten. Lily was quiet, the kind of child who noticed things adults often didn't, and one chilly November morning, she saw him, the dog with matted brown fur and tired amber eyes, sitting at the bus stop like he was waiting for someone. As the bus rolled by, she watched him through the fogged-up window. He stood, walked behind it slowly, then stopped again when it turned the corner. She felt something tug in her chest. A question she couldn't quite name. Why would a dog just stand there, staring at a bus full of children? The next morning, there he was again. Same spot, same way his head tilted slightly when the bus approached. This time Lily pressed her face closer to the glass. He wasn't begging for food, he wasn't wagging his tail like strays sometimes. Dewey was still calm, but his eyes scanned the windows like he was looking for someone. And Lily couldn't stop thinking about it. She told her mom that night. But her mom smiled and said, maybe he was just lost, or waiting for someone to feed him. But Lily didn't believe it. She felt there was something more, something hidden. By the third day, she whispered to her best friend Mia on the bus, and Mia saw him too. He's following us, she said, and from then on, the two girls made it a habit to check. Every morning, without fail, and every morning without fail. The dog would appear, always 2 blocks before the bus stop, like clockwork. Some mornings it was raining, some mornings it was icy. Once even snow fell in soft flakes, but the dog never missed a day. And now the driver, Mr. Harris, a kind older man who'd been driving that route for 20 years, started to notice too. That's strange, he muttered one morning. Slowing the bus a little as the dog trotted along, he doesn't look like he belongs to anyone. But there was no collar, no tag, just those tired, yet determined eyes. One Friday afternoon, Lily decided to stay a little longer after school. She hid behind the last row of seats, watching as all the kids left. And when the bus was empty, she saw him standing outside the school gates, waiting again, and this time, when he saw the children leave, his ears drooped slightly, his tail lowered, but he stayed. His gaze fixed on the doors like he expected someone to appear who never did. Lily couldn't shake the feeling. It was almost like he was hoping for one child. One face. Someone who used to be there, but wasn't anymore. Over the weekend, Lily couldn't stop thinking about it. She drew pictures of the dog, she wrote. In her little journal, why does he wait? She asked in shaky handwriting. Who is he waiting for? Monday came, and again he was there, this time standing closer, and Lily, gathering all the courage her small heart had, stepped off the bus with Mia and walked toward him. The dog froze, eyes wide but soft, and for a moment he just stood there. Then slowly, cautiously, he lowered himself to the ground, tail wagging once timidly like he wanted to come closer but wasn't sure he should. Lily knelt, her mitten-covered hands reaching out, and he let her touch him just briefly, before stepping back again, glancing once more at the bus, then the schoolyard, and then walking away down the same road. The bus driver shook his head. Poor fella, he said softly. He's looking for someone who's not coming back. I've seen it before, but he didn't explain, and Lily felt a lump in her throat she couldn't name, like she was standing in the middle of a mystery that was far bigger than her. That night, she begged her mom to let her bring some food the next day. So on Tuesday, she packed a sandwich in her backpack. And when she got off the bus, she crouched down, holding it out, The dog sniffed it, took it gently in his mouth, then looked past her toward the empty seat on the bus before lying down right there on the sidewalk, as if waiting for someone who'd never arrive. And that's when Lily noticed something she hadn't before. Round his neck was a faint mark, like he used to wear a collar. And she wondered if he once belonged to a family who lived near the school. Maybe to a child. Maybe to someone who rode that very bus. And maybe, just maybe, he hadn't realized they were gone. What none of them knew yet, not Lily, not Mia, not even Mr. Harris, was that this dog's story was woven with something heartbreakingly beautiful. A story that would change the way the entire town saw him. A truth that would move even the toughest. Adults to tears. And it all started to unravel with one small act of kindness the next morning. The next morning arrived cold and misty. The kind of morning where your breath hangs in the air like a quiet secret. And Lily clutched the small container of food she had begged her mom to pack, her eyes scanning the sidewalk before the bus even stopped. And there he was. The stray dog, sitting in the exact same spot, still patient. His eyes fixed on the horizon like he was waiting for time to give him something back. And this time Lily didn't hesitate. She stepped down from the bus. And crouched near him, setting the food on the curb, he approached slowly, sniffing the air before gently taking it from her hands. His eyes meeting hers with a softness that almost felt like gratitude. But before she could reach out again, before she could speak to him in the little voice she saved for her stuffed animals, he turned away, walking a few feet, then stopping, looking back as if he was asking her silently, "Will you follow me?" But Lily couldn't. The bus driver called her back, and as the engine roared, she watched the dog pad quietly toward a side street that led nowhere in particular, disappearing into the morning fog. That day at school, Lily couldn't concentrate, her teacher's words blurred. Her eyes kept drifting toward the windows where she could just make out the outline of the same street corner. And during recess, she even asked one of the older kids if they knew the dog, but they only shrugged, saying he had been around for months, always following the bus, always waiting, never barking, never causing trouble, just waiting. By the time the final bell rang, Lily's curiosity had grown into something heavier, a feeling she couldn't explain, like a string pulling at her chest. And when she boarded the bus, she pressed her face against the glass again, searching for him, but he wasn't there. Not at the gates, not on the corner, nowhere. And that absence made her heart ache in a way she didn't expect. Because she realized she was already hoping he would be there, already hoping he would look up at the bus the way he always did. But the next morning he was back, waiting exactly where she expected him to be. And this time something was different. Mr. Harris slowed the bus as they approached and said quietly, almost to himself, "You again. You're looking for someone, aren't you, boy?" And Lily's eyes widened. "Do you know him?" she asked. And the old driver just sighed, his face suddenly sad in a way Lily hadn't seen before. "Not him exactly," he said softly, "but I know what he's doing. I've seen dogs like this before. They don't forget, even when everyone else does." That answer made Lily's mind swirl with questions she didn't dare ask, but her determination grew. She needed to know. She needed to understand why a stray dog would keep coming back to the same place every day. That afternoon when the bus dropped her off, she didn't run home like usual. Instead, she sat on the curb near the bus stop, waiting, holding the leash she had borrowed from her mom just in case. And after what felt like hours, she saw him, emerging. From behind the bushes near the old wooden fence, his paws slow but purposeful, and when he saw her, he froze, then tilted his head, as if surprised she was still there, as if wondering why this little girl kept noticing him when no one else did. She whispered, "Hi, it's okay. I won't hurt you," and she held out her hand. This time he didn't back away. He stepped closer. Close enough for her to see the faint outline of dirt where a collar might have been. Close enough for her to see the tiny scar near his ear, and in his eyes she saw something she couldn't name, something that felt like both hope and heartbreak mixed together. She didn't know it yet, but in that moment the dog made a choice. He sat down beside her, leaned his head gently against her knee, and for the first time since she had seen him, he stayed. Just then Mia arrived, her mom walking behind her, and she gasped, "Lily, you're petting him." And Lily smiled, whispering softly, "He's not just a stray, he's looking for someone." And Mia's mom nodded slowly. "That's Rex. He used to belong to a family near here, a little. Boy used to ride this same bus, but—" She trailed off, eyes sad. "They moved away last year after something happened. I think the dog never understood." Lily's heart tightened. What happened? She wanted to ask, but the way Mia's mom turned her face made her stop. That night, she couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the boy who used to ride her bus. The boy who had a dog who still waited for him. The boy whose name she didn't even know. And she wondered if the dog believed he'd come back, if every day was another chance to see him again. The next morning, determined to do more than just feed him, she slipped a little note into her pocket. A note she had written on pink paper with her neatest handwriting. "I see you, and I want to help you." And when the bus stopped, she ran. To him again, crouching low, whispering softly, "I don't know your name, but I'll find out, I promise." And she tucked the note under the old tree where he always sat, hoping somehow someone might see it. But what happened next was something no one could have expected. The dog took the note in his mouth, looked up at her with eyes that almost seemed wet, then turned and began walking, slowly but deliberately, toward the narrow alley behind the old fence, stopping every few steps to look back, as if saying, "Follow me." And though Lily hesitated, though the bus driver called out for her to come back, something deep inside told her she had to go, because she was about to uncover a story that would touch the entire town, a story hidden in that alleyway that would make even the adults cry when they finally learned the truth. Lily stepped carefully into the narrow alleyway, her little sneakers crunching over fallen leaves and bits of gravel. The air cooler here, heavier somehow, like it was holding on to a memory it didn't want to release. And just a few steps ahead, the dog moved slowly, glancing back every few seconds as if to make sure she was still behind him, his ears flicking at every sound. His paws deliberate but gentle, and the further they went, the quieter the world became, the noise of the school. Bus fading until it was just her, him, and the faint rustling of the trees overhead, like whispers of something long forgotten. The alley opened up into a small, overgrown yard that looked abandoned. An old wooden fence tilted to one side, ivy creeping over its cracked boards. And there, nestled in the corner, was something that made Lily stop in her tracks, an old faded backpack leaning against a rusted swing set, the kind of backpack a little boy might have carried to school, still with a keychain of a cartoon dog hanging from the zipper, weathered but still recognizable. The dog walked straight to it, lowered his head, and lay down beside it, pressing his nose gently against the worn fabric. And in that moment, Lily understood this wasn't just a random yard. This was where the boy who owned him used to play. And he had been coming back here every day, waiting for him. Her heart squeezed in her chest. The kind of ache you feel when something is both beautiful and unbearably sad. And she whispered, "You're still waiting." "Aren't you?" her voice, trembling just a little. The dog lifted his head and looked at her with eyes that seemed to ask for something she didn't know how to give. She slowly reached out, brushing the dirt off the backpack, and noticed a faint name stitched on the inside tag, Ethan, written in block letters that were almost faded away. Ethan. That was the boy's name. She didn't know who he was, or where he had gone. But now, she had a piece of the puzzle. She sat with the dog for a long time, just stroking his fur, feeling the quiet around them like it was holding its breath, and she promised softly, "I'll find him. I'll find Ethan for you." Later that day, Lily told her mom what she had seen, showing her the backpack she had carefully brought home. Her mom's eyes widened when she saw it, her face softening into that mix of surprise and sadness adults have when they're reminded of things they don't want to remember, and she sighed, "Oh, Lily. Ethan was a boy from the next street over. He used to ride your bus every day, always with that dog by his side. They were inseparable, but after the accident, the family moved away." Lily's heart raced. "What accident?" she asked quietly. But her mom hesitated, choosing her words slowly. "His father got a job in another state, but Ethan had been sick for a long time, the kind of sickness that makes families do whatever they can to start over. They thought it would be easier to leave, but the dog, Rex, He ran away the day they packed their things, and he's been here ever since, waiting for him. That night, Lily couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the way Rex had pressed his nose to the backpack, about the way he followed the bus every single day as if he believed that any moment Ethan might step off. It again, and she wondered what it must feel like for a dog to love someone so much that even time couldn't break that bond. She woke up early the next morning and begged her mom to let her leave for the bus stop a little earlier, carrying an extra blanket and some food she had saved from dinner. When she arrived, Rex was already there, sitting in the exact same spot, his head lifting the moment he saw her. This time, she didn't just feed him. She wrapped the blanket gently around him and sat with him until the bus came, whispering softly, "You're not alone anymore. Okay, I'm here." As the days passed, the bond between Lily and Rex grew stronger. Every morning he would wait for her, and every afternoon she would follow him back to the yard where the swing set stood. She started leaving little notes on the backpack, letters to Ethan, just in case his family ever came back. She even drew a picture of Rex sitting by the bus, taping it to the fence with a message that said, "Your dog is still waiting for you." And then something unexpected happened. One afternoon, when she returned to the yard, there was a small envelope taped to the fence where her drawing had been. Inside was a folded note written in a neat adult hand. It read, "Thank you for taking care of him. We didn't know he stayed behind. Ethan asks about Rex every day." Lily's eyes widened. Someone had seen her message. Someone from Ethan's family. Her hands trembled as she read it again and again, her heart pounding with a mix of hope and disbelief. She turned to Rex, who was sitting beside the backpack as always, and whispered, "They know you're still here. They know." Following days were a blur of anticipation. Lily's mom contacted the address written on the back of the letter, leaving messages, and each day Lily told Rex, "Just a little longer, okay? Just a little longer." And then one Friday afternoon, as the sun was setting in golden streaks over the small town, a car pulled up near the alleyway. A woman stepped out, her eyes scanning the yard with a kind of nervous longing. And behind her came a boy, thin and pale but smiling softly, holding onto the edge of the car door for support. It was Ethan. His voice was quiet but steady when he whispered, "Rex." The dog froze, lifting his head slowly, his ears twitching at the sound he hadn't heard in what felt like forever. For a moment, everything was still. Time itself seemed to hold its breath. Then Rex bolted forward, faster than Lily had ever seen him move, his paws thudding against the ground, his tail wagging wildly as he leaped into Ethan's arms.
"Ow."
The boy fell to his knees, laughing and crying all at once, burying his face in the dog's fur, and Rex whimpered, a sound so raw and full of relief it made Lily's own eyes fill with tears. Ethan's mother stood behind them, her hand covering her mouth, whispering, "I can't believe he stayed. All this time, he stayed." For the people who watched from a distance, it was like seeing a piece of magic unfold in real life, the kind of love that doesn't fade even when the world changes. And for Lily, it was the moment she realized that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness, like feeding a stray dog or leaving a note, can change everything. The reunion between Ethan and Rex didn't just end with tears in the old abandoned yard. It became something that touched everyone who witnessed it. Because as the boy held onto his dog, it was like watching time collapse into a single moment of pure love and relief. And you could see it in the way Ethan's trembling hands clutched the fur he thought he'd never feel again. You could hear it in Rex's soft, almost desperate whimpers as he pressed his face into the boy's shoulder, like he was trying to memorize every scent, every heartbeat, every little detail that he had been missing for what felt like an eternity. Ethan's mom knelt beside them, gently wrapping her arms around both of them, and there was a softness in her eyes that told a story without words. The story of a family that had left a piece of their hearts behind without even knowing it. Lily stood a few steps away, her small hands clasped in front of her, not wanting to intrude on something so private and sacred. But Ethan turned to her with a smile that was fragile, yet full of gratitude, and whispered, "You took care of him, didn't you?" And Lily just nodded, too choked up to speak. Rex shifted his weight and looked back at her, his tail wagging slightly as if to say, "You did it." For a fleeting second, the three of them, the boy, the dog, and the little girl who had bridged the gap between them, felt connected in a way that went beyond words. Over the next few days, the story spread quietly through the small town. Not because anyone tried to make it big, but because people saw it happen. They saw the car pull up near the alley. They saw the thin boy step out. And they saw the way the dog, who had been waiting every day, without fail, finally ran into the arms he had been longing for. And soon neighbors were leaving small gifts on Lily's doorstep, dog treats, blankets, even a new collar for Rex, Ethan's. Mom decided to stay for a week before they returned home, and during that time, Lily visited every day after school. She learned that Ethan had been through treatments for a serious illness, the kind that kept him in hospitals for months at a time, and that moving away had been the family's way of giving him a better chance at life. But no one had told Rex. No one could explain to a dog why his boy suddenly wasn't there anymore. So he had simply kept waiting, day after day, chasing the only thing he knew: the sound of the bus that had once carried his best friend. On the last evening before Ethan's family left, they all gathered at the old yard by the swing set. Ethan sat on the swing, pale but smiling, with Rex lying across his feet, his head resting in Ethan's lap, like he had never left. Ethan turned to Lily and said, "I didn't think I'd see him again. I didn't think he'd still be here." And Lily smiled softly, brushing her hair behind her ear and replying, "He never stopped waiting, not once." Ethan's mom put her arm around Lily's shoulders, her voice warm and sincere as she whispered, "You gave my son back a piece of his heart." And in that moment, Lily felt a warmth that filled her from the inside out, the kind of feeling that stays with you for the rest of your life. The next morning, the bus pulled up like it always did, but this time, it didn't just pass by a waiting dog. This time, Rex sat proudly, with a bright new collar around his neck, sitting beside Ethan, who waved at Lily from the car window before they left. Rex barked once, a happy bark, almost as if saying goodbye to the bus route he had followed for so long. And though he was leaving, Lily didn't feel sad. She knew this was how it was meant to be. Rex was going home with his boy finally, after waiting in faith that love would find its way back. When the car disappeared down the road, Lily sat quietly on the bus stop bench, holding the note Ethan had given her. It read, "Thank you for finding him for me. I'll never forget you." She smiled, wiping away a small tear. From that day on, every time the bus passed that corner, Lily would glance at the yard and remember the loyal dog who never gave up, the boy who came back, and the small kindness that brought them together. The story of Rex's loyalty rippled quietly beyond their town. Teachers shared it in classrooms, neighbors told it at dinner tables, and people who heard it found themselves holding their pets a little closer, reminded that sometimes love doesn't need words, sometimes it's just in the waiting, in the quiet faith that the ones you love will return. Lily kept visiting that old yard, not because she was sad, but because it reminded her of what love looked like when it was pure and unwavering. She planted flowers there, bright yellow ones, that would bloom every spring, so that even when the memory faded for others, the place where Rex had waited would always be beautiful. And if you had been there that final morning, you would have seen something simple but unforgettable. A little girl standing beside an old swing set, smiling softly at the empty street, knowing that somewhere out there a boy and his dog were finally together again. That's all that mattered. So let me ask you, have you ever seen a dog wait for someone they love? You believe they can feel things we can't explain? Hold on to hope, even when humans have given up? Share your story in the comments, because maybe your dog has a story worth telling too.